Thank you, Mr. Nugroho, for making the trip to Singapore. I thought that, since you're with us here today, that we should benefit from your experience in Indonesia, especially because in the past few days, the representatives that we have met have mostly been from Eastern Europe, and we haven't had the benefit of someone from the Southeast Asian context. So if you could bear with me while I go through your submission in detail, and if you could highlight and elaborate certain places. On page 3, in paragraph 4, you had described 2 incidents of falsehoods in Indonesia. Could I trouble the clerks to pull up the relevant section, please? Could you describe to us this incident that you mentioned about a mob 2016 in North Sumatra, which was driven by disinformation that led to the destruction of holy places? Could you elaborate on that and explain to us what happened?
Yes, so in 2016, we had a kind of issues about a Chinese woman that angry to people that, doing the prayer call in the morning. Actually, she has a mental disorder, but this kind of information was spread with the misinformation using the chat apps. And it triggers the mob that they destroyed, they burned, not entirely, but at least they threatened 7 viharas in Tanjung Balai in North Sumatra. That's I think one of incident that was already highlighted by several medias. And also the second one is actually at the beginning of the 2017, there was a kind of false digital flyer that advised people to be careful because it is a kind of massive child kidnapping. So even the digital flyer contains the police logo, but this is actually false. And the people in West Kalimantan, some of them fall into this informations. And there was an incident that one father that tried to bring rice to his children in West Kalimantan, but he was suspected as a child kidnapper. So he was the victim, and he was beaten to death.
And also on page 3, you mentioned that this information can also have financial and health implications. Could you elaborate on that as well, please?
Yes. The first one is actually the misinformation in health. Yeah, for example, there are so many misinformations regarding health, especially in the social media. Some people that have already that are sick, sometimes they are not patient enough, and then they try to get some solutions from the internet, which is unfortunately, if we try to get some information from the internet, many of them are actually misleading. Sometimes are just kind of mixing between the truth and the false, and sometimes they just try to get some people to buy some of their products, which is actually could be dangerous. And we already talked with some kind of health institutions, for example, the cancer foundations, and they told us also that several patients, they try to get some kind of therapy from the internet, and they leave their medical therapy, and when they consider that their path is wrong, but it was too late. So it takes a lot of lives there. Even actually in our group discussion, there was several reports. For example, in social media, there was a kind of information that if you got stroke, and the solution is just take a needle and just put in your fingers, and also the ears, yeah. So it will make your stroke easier, but this kind of misinformation was believed by several people. There was a report that in one office, when people got stroke, the distance between the office and the hospital is actually 10 minutes away, but the people in the office, they didn't take the person directly to the hospital, but they use this kind of therapy. and this lead the people to death. So this is a kind of the danger of the health of misinformation in the social media. The second one of the financials, there are so many Ponzi scheme business that they try to masquerade themselves as a legit business, and they try to get their victims through the social media. And the toll is quite high. We got a report from the Authority of Financial Service from Indonesia, and it costs so many tens of trillions rupiah lost to this kind of a rock business, and it destroyed the local economy.
Would you say that in the instances of the fake news regarding health and financial cases that you cited, that this also impacts educated people?
Yes, yes. It impacts educated people because sometimes if you are educated in some kind of specific knowledge, sometimes you don't have quite enough literacy on health or on financial.
Okay, so in that sense, even though you have set out on page 4 that why misinformation spreads so easily in Indonesia, and one of the reasons you provided was low literacy, it is also possible that there are fake news that impacts well-read and educated people. It just depends on where their, I guess, expertise is in. There could be areas that they're not familiar with, and therefore they could still fall prey to fake news.
Exactly, yes.